Hey guys, welcome back to Mindset Automotive. After months of planning, buying parts, stacking up parts, looking for deals, we finally got everything in and we're ready to kind of go over it. We've got over $2,000 worth of parts here, ready to boost the Fiero, help things spool up, help things get faster, and make it a monster. We're talking turbo, intercooler lines, fuel pumps, fuel cells, and everything in between to make this thing the boosted monster it's needed to be since I bought the car. So if you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like because we're diving right into this build, tearing apart every single piece that we have here, showing you what we've got going into this car so we can release the mid-engine monster this thing needed to be. All right, so starting off kind of simple, we've got our Evil Energy AN lines, which I actually haven't even opened yet. So this should be my fuel hoses for my fuel setup. We've got Evil Energy fuel lines. These are all AN lines. We're gonna be running these to something pretty cool. We've got these guys here. A lot of my fueling setup is done through Evil Energy. Underneath that, I'm going to be going through some of my wiring stuff. So I bought an entire big roll of 12 gauge wire. Gonna go through every little bit of my wiring, redo everything, make it look cleaned up and a lot nicer than it was. This is all just random Amazon cheap stuff because that's what I needed. Now, since we're going turbo and I'm not throwing a big cam in it currently, not yet at least, we have got our valve springs here. These are, I can't remember what these are. I want to say they're 80-pound valve springs. 90-pound. We've got our 90-pound valve springs here and a Gen 3 North Star throttle body adapter plate, which obviously, if you know anything about these 3800s, you know that means I have got somewhere in here. I've got a North Star throttle body in here somewhere. Running from our fuel cell, we have got a high flow inline fuel pump by AEM. This is what's going to drive everything since I do not have an in-tank setup for my fuel setup anymore. I've got a big meaty inline fuel pump. This thing's going to work great. It's going to help us get all the fuel to our now 160-pound injectors that we got. And it's going to let us hopefully also run E85 a little bit smoother and cleaner through our entire system that we've got going on. Now, although it's not in the box over here, the actual fluid reservoir, instead of running a air-to-air intercooler, we're going to be running a water-to-air intercooler. So here's the water pump for my intercooler setup. The tank is in the car currently, just sitting in there, and I've got should have a fan here for the intercooler itself. Got the actual intercooler right here. This is what it looks like. On the inside of here, it looks like a normal intercooler, but instead of running air to air, this will have water flowing through it. When air comes in one side, comes out the other, but it pushes through the center here to be able to push all that cold water or coolant past so that it can cool down the air before flowing back into the intake manifold. Here we have got my VP Racing wastegate. This is going to work out well. It's a decent sized little wastegate. I'm sure you guys have already kind of seen it sitting on the floor, but that is all right. So here's a VP Racing wastegate that we're going to use, and in this box we have got my VP Racing blow-off valve. That's also a nice little meaty dude. So that's what we're going to be running for this setup. I can't remember the size of this guy, but it's a pretty meaty little blow-off valve. All right, so I know you guys can't see it because it's still in the box, and I don't really feel like opening it right now because I'm not quite to that point. And I'd rather not pull out a bunch of stuff and have to try to throw it all back into boxes and whatnot. I don't really have anywhere to organize anything, so everything's going to kind of stay in their boxes for now. But here This entire box is filled with 2.5-inch stainless steel exhaust. This is what we're gonna use for our exhaust work, for all of our piping from our headers and all that good stuff. We should have everything we need. If not, I mean, I've got some extra stuff laying around, but this will be what we use for all of our exhaust work. And I think we're gonna do something kind of cool with the exhaust when we get to that point, but that's gonna be in a later episode, obviously. Here we've got some of our silicone piping that we're gonna use to our turbo. We've got a bunch of different random pieces of this, right angles, bends, elbows, things like that. This is what we're gonna end up using. We've got a ton of it. And inside this bag, we've got a bunch of our hose clamps, our V-bands, things like that. Here's another silicone hose. All right, so here's one of the big ones I'm sure you guys are kind of excited to see. This is my 12-gallon fuel cell from Evil Energy. So you've got your fuel fill up here. If I can get it to open. There's your fuel fill up, fills up with 12 gallons, so it's actually 2 gallons bigger than my OEM fuel tank, which isn't a lot, but it's enough. I don't need a whole bunch. It just needs somewhere that isn't that original OEM fuel tank, because that fuel tank's going bad. It's had issues since I bought the car. So we picked ourselves up a nice 12-gallon fuel cell, and this is what we're gonna run from it. We're gonna run these guys out, obviously, to our fittings and everything else, out to the fuel rails and into our 160-pound injectors. All right, and then a couple other small odds and ends. We've got some bulkheads for some relays for our fuel pumps and stuff. Some more wiring stuff. This is, I believe, can't remember what gauge this is, but this is, I want to say 20 gauge wire. Got that for some of our rewire on our ECU / PCM, whatever you want to call it. Oh, here's that North Star throttle body that we're going to end up swapping to. This will let more air flow through. In general, it's just the better throttle body to run, especially when you're starting to go into boosting stuff, but you have to have an adapter plate to run it. So, is what it is. All right, and now for the one that I know you guys were waiting for. Here is my 6762, 67. This is my damn. It is a reverse mount, I believe. I'm wanting to get to about 16 to 18 PSI out of this guy. And that should put us around with everything we've got here. We're looking for around 500 wheel horse. So we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of stuff to put in, a lot of stuff to tear out and redo. Should be a good time. We've got a ton of work to get to, so in the next video, you guys are gonna see me start tearing down some stuff, pulling stuff out yet again for the 3rd time on this channel. The motor's gotta come out, the fuel tank's gotta come out, we gotta start tearing things apart, redoing all my wiring, putting bulkheads in the firewall so that I'm not running wires straight through the firewall, even though that's what Pontiac did back in the 80s for whatever reason. So we're gonna end up redoing a lot of that stuff and making it look a whole lot better, a whole lot cleaner, and a whole lot safer. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will catch you guys on the next one.